Applying to Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, entitled Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided, as specified in the act. Proper notice of the public meeting was provided in the notice of April 28, 2010. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the board, mailed to the Nutley Sun, Star Ledger, North Jersey Herald and News, and the Nutley Journal. Mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, advertised in the Nutley Sun on May 6, 2010, posted on the district website. This is an official meeting. Please rise for the flag salute a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call roll, please.
Mr. Kopta?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here.
Mr. Mascartola?
Here.
Dr. Reed? Mr. Rogers?
Here.
Mrs. Russo?
Here.
Mr. Sauter?
Here.
Mrs. Pizzata? Mr. Riley?
Here. Superintendent's report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Riley. Wonderful opening. We are staffed. One concern is the need for additional school lunch aides. Our principals have covered that with staff. However, we are reviewing that this week with the principals and see what the needs are. But right now, we do have it covered until we have an opportunity to review and determine which way we want to go starting Monday. School construction, I know we're going to have a detailed school construction report from Mr. Riley. School construction, as you can imagine, is coming to the end, but it was ongoing this summer. It was a great deal of work done in a very short period of time in the majority of our schools. Other than that, we're looking forward to a good year. The opening houses are around the corner and all of the school activities are fully underway. Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Which secretary report?
None at this time.
I'm going to start with the construction committee report, since we're going into the committee report portion. Excuse me, pass me here.
I think maybe we'll next to this place.
Would you find out? Would you say something again? Find out? Please.
Tom Cosmo.
The construction council.
He may be in your conference room.
I just want to report on construction, since Mr. Zara said we were going to talk about construction. As everybody here knows who's been here before, we wound up doing what I thought was the impossible, which was including enough work at the elementary schools and the high school to get a temporary CO from the municipality and get our schools open on time, which we accomplished. Today I had the privilege of going to a few of the schools early this morning. I had contact with the superintendent over the weekend and told him that I would like to go see where we're at with a few of the schools, such as Spring Garden and Radcliffe. And since I have no problem giving glowing reports when they're glowing, I have a less than glowing report to give tonight, but I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and when I'm not happy, I'm not happy. And right now, I'm less than happy. I'm not happy because what I saw today were some things that I was promised a week ago would be completed by today, such as the cabinet work at Radcliffe School, such as a dumpster that was sitting outside the school this morning, overflowing with debris that was also on the ground, which I didn't appreciate. I saw construction workers there that I didn't expect to see. I saw equipment outside that I wasn't happy, and in my opinion, wasn't properly protected from the students. So I immediately brought that to the attention of the principal, I brought it to the attention of the construction manager, the superintendent, the board secretary, the director of buildings and grounds, and basically whoever else would listen to me. So a lot of those items are being corrected as we speak. The dumpster should be off the property by the end of today. We're addressing the construction workers that are behind Radcliffe School, doing some work in the boiler room, which is sealed off from the school. And the only door that's open there is the back door that leads to the boiler room. And when they come into the building, they have to go through the front door and report to the building principal. But as far as I'm concerned, that's not a good condition. It's not what I signed on for, it's not what this board signed on for. And we expect what we saw at the other schools. We expect a porta-john outside the building if that's what they're coming in the building for. And we don't need them commingling with the staff or the students in the building. So I have another meeting tomorrow morning, first thing, with the construction manager to walk through Radcliffe School and Yannicott School again to make sure that those conditions have improved. The cabinet work that we knew wasn't going to be complete for the first day of school is ongoing, but Radcliffe School should have been complete already, and they've promised me at the end of today that it should be complete by the end of the week. And I hope that's accurate information. The other school, we have an open house next week, as everyone knows, so I'm asking them to get moving a little faster at Yannicott School, which really hasn't started as we finish the other schools. We're moving from one school to the other. We borrowed some equipment from one school from the cabinet so we can finish the cabinets at Radcliffe School because we were short of some hardware. So all of these things are not earth-shattering. They're not reason for us to go into panic mode because we don't panic. But the point is, we're on top of these things. We're not happy with the current conditions, and we're not happy. I got the feeling that, you know, because we opened on time for the first day of school, everything was okay. And, you know, it's business as usual since then. But it's not. The work's got to be done. It's got to be done in safe conditions. It has to be safe for the staff. It has to be safe for the kids. And we're going to ensure as a board tonight that it is. The other schools, the other schools are okay. I mean, Lincoln School is 99% complete and looks fabulous. Washington School, I don't even recognize anymore. There was this class of 1975, graduating class of 1975. It's really too far back for me to remember, but I bumped into some of them in the senior courtyard over the weekend, and they just couldn't believe the graduates of that class that went to Spring Garden in Washington and Lincoln just could not believe, since they hadn't been here some in 10, 20, 30 years since graduation 35 years ago. They couldn't believe the condition of the school. So they were more than thrilled about those conditions. They got to see the courtyard, some of them for the first time since they graduated, and saw what we did in the senior courtyard there, what Sal Olivo and his committee did a few years back with raising some donations and making that courtyard look like $1 million. I expect to see Sal later tonight to show this board for the first time. I haven't seen anything either. Plans to do the front of the school and the image and likeness of the senior courtyard, so I hope to see them here with some plans later tonight at the meeting. And pretty much that's what I have for right now, but we'll, you know, I just got a note as I sat down here from one of our colleagues here, Mr. Rogers, in reference to the Stop, Drop, and Go, which I have not had an opportunity to review, but I'm sure we'll review it later on in new business. And I understand that we'll have a few people here from public safety to address any concerns that anybody has about the Stop, Drop, and Go, including the traffic safety officer. So that concludes my committee report on construction. Mr. Kaczynski, do you have any committee reports?
No, not at this time.
I'd be remiss. Do you mind if I just jump in here and wish one of our members a happy birthday, Mrs. Russo? I missed her birthday. I forgot to wish her a happy birthday, but happy birthday.
Of course.
What about me?
I'm working my way around the building. Is it okay? Is it a little complex, or is it? Do you have any committee reports, Mr. Piscaratore?
None at the time.
Pardon?
None at this time.
Thank you.
None at this time.
Mr. Rogers?
None.
Okay. At this time, then, before we have a hearing of the citizens, we're going to go into executive since council arrived. And we have some extremely important legal matters to discuss, as well as personnel issues. So at this time, whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion, pursuant NJSA 10:4-12, now therefore be resolved, the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss legal and personnel matters. Be further resolved that the results of the discussions will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of the subsequent meeting of the Board of Education. The when the reasons for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exist, I so move.
Second.
Second, Mr. Kaczynski, for a name and a second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Coca?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski? Mr. Mascarotola?
Here.
Mr. Rogers?
Here.
Mrs. Russo? Here. Mr. Sauter?
Here.
Mrs. Pizzata? Mr. Riley?
Here. At this point, we're going to go to council. Tom Cosman to discuss the appellate court decision on the Tri-Tech lawsuit. Mr. Cosman, please.
And as some of you may have read in the newspaper on August 30th, the appellate division issued a decision in the Tri-Tech lawsuit. And I just wanted to kind of summarize it and I guess answer any questions I can without obviously disclosing any attorney-client privileged communications. The law division, Judge Kennedy, well, let me back up a second. Tri-Tech brought a suit against the board in November of 2008, seeking to obtain a judgment for over $2 million in connection with the settlement agreement that had been reached in May of 2008. And the board responded to that by opposing their application and also filing a counterclaim seeking to have the settlement agreement declared void and unenforceable. The matter was determined in a summary manner, which under the rules of court usually means you don't have live testimony or hearing, you have certifications submitted. And Judge Kennedy in February issued his opinion finding that there was a unilateral mistake and rescinding the settlement agreement. Because the board had made the initial payment to Tri-Tech of $750,000 in May of 2008, he ordered that $750,000 be returned. Essentially, when you deal with a rescission for unilateral mistake, it is intended to put the parties back in the position that they were in prior to, in this case, the settlement agreement, which would have meant that the parties returned to arbitration where they were prior to the settlement agreement being entered. Tri-Tech appealed from that decision and asked the appellate division basically for two things. One, to have the lower court enter the judgment against the board for the balance that Tri-Tech was seeking under the settlement agreement, and to set aside the $750,000 judgment that the board had obtained against Tri-Tech. And the appellate division did not order the board to pay Tri-Tech the balance due in the settlement agreement. But with respect to Judge Kennedy's ruling on rescission, ordered that there be a plenary hearing, sort of a mini trial, on whether rescission as an equitable remedy should have been ordered to return the $750,000. During the pendency of the appeal, the court granted a stay on the condition that Tri-Tech post a bond for $600,000, which it did not. So there was no stay of the judgment. However, while we attempted to collect on the judgment, we were only able to levy and collect a very small amount. I think it was maybe $1,000 against the $750,000 that the board had paid. So at this point, the appellate division ordered a decision rendered, and we're waiting to hear from the court as to how it intends to proceed to the plenary hearing that was ordered. That's, essentially it. If you have any questions, I know some of these terms, rescission, unilateral mistake, legal terms of art, difficult sometimes to grasp, just being hit with it for the first time. So I'll be happy to answer any questions I can, as I said, without disclosing attorney-client confidential communications as far as recommendations and such to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Cosman. We'll talk about that later on in old business. Right now, we come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions and comments on only the resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulations allow 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes. We ask you to try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than only once after all others wishing to be heard on the topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to the committee chair, and no one may address the board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, participation will be terminated. Please state your name and address. Anybody come forward would like to speak? Yes.
Terry Ford, 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for the Nutley Parent Advocacy Network. Under superintendent's resolutions on page 3, number 14, that's a course that's going from study skills course to the HESPA course.
Yes.
Okay, there are students in that class, from what I understand. The students that are there, I understand that there's several special ed students in that class. Will they still remain in that class?
Yes. Nothing is changing but the change of title at the request of the chairperson of that department.
Okay, so that's it.
That's it.
Anyone else? On resolution items only.
Mike Russo, 11 Beach Street. On the superintendent's report, item number 5 regarding the school crossing guard at Radcliffe School.
Yes.
Can you tell us why the Board of Education and not Public Safety is paying almost $10,000 a year for that crossing guard?
That's a very good question. It's a parking lot crossing guard, not a street crossing guard. Some years ago, when before my time here, when buses were located at Radcliffe School, there was a school crossing guard there for that purpose. That parking lot does get an awful lot of traffic, and it's a safety precaution for students. We will review it after school is underway. We did bring that person back in the last week of the summer until we address some other issues regarding traffic flow. And you'll be hearing perhaps about that this evening.
I'm not disputing the fact that that's needed. I'm very familiar with that area.
Yes,
I
but
didn't think of-
that is why, because that was never a township crossing guard post. It was always a Board of Ed position.
Okay.
For student safety.
Regarding item number 7, the $5,000 stipend for the physician, is that coming from the Board of Education? Or my understanding was that the extended day program was always a self-contained entity.
That is coming from the extended day program.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? The resolution items only. Seeing none, Mr. Mascarotola, would you move superintendent resolutions 1 through 14 as listed, please?
Okay, Mr. President, I would like to move that superintendent items 1 through 14 as so listed, I so move.
Second.
Second, Mr. Kuzinski. Discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Copta?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Mascarotola?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo? Yes. Mr. Sauter?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes. Mr. Sauter, will you move Board Secretary resolutions 1 through 7 as listed, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to move resolutions 1 through 7. So moved.
Second, Mr. Kuzinski. Mr.
That's okay.
I can't do this. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Copta?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mr. Mascarotola?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo? Yes. Mr. Sauter?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, Mr. Kaczynski, would you please read VA addendum number 8, approval of school-based therapy services agreement, please?
Certainly. Approval of school-based therapy service agreement maternity leave coverage. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the agreement with school-based therapy services for occupational therapy services for maternity leave coverage for Carla Cavallo from September 13, 2010 until January 31st, 2011 at $81 per hour. I so move.
Second.
Second, Mr. Quigley, discussion? Call roll, please.
Mr. Kupka?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mascartola?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Soto?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes. In this section, we allow questions or comments on all school-related matters. All regulations allow 30 minutes for communications. This is a hearing of the citizens. Our regulations allow 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person shall be limited for 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. On any school business, yes.
Terry Quirk, 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for the Nutley Parent Advocacy Network. Mr. Zarrett had said, you had said something about the aides in the beginning of the meeting.
Yes.
So can you just kind of clarify that
Yes.
situation?
We are in need of additional lunch aides. What we have instructed the principals to do is have teachers fill in during the lunch period. We will have a principals meeting tomorrow if possible, no later than Wednesday. Review the situation and color substitute list for aides and have people in place for Monday, and then certainly appoint them at the next meeting.
Okay. So they'll be appointed,
But they won't be in as substitutes, they are on our substitute list. So we will have people in place on Monday.
okay, so each building, from what I understand, has like 3 or 4 cafeteria aides at this point. You'll be expanding that after
Yes,
Monday?
not in every school, we're needed,
Okay,
as
very good.
requested.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Anyone who wants to be heard?
Good evening, everybody. Sal Olivo, 214 Nutley Avenue. I'm part of a group. We'd like to beautify the front of the high school. Some of our members are here tonight. We have some conceptual drawings that...
Just to give you a little heads up, we spoke about you earlier before you got here when we opened the meeting, and I had spoken about a reunion that took place over the weekend and the people that were so excited because it was the first time they had been in the senior courtyard, many of them since they graduated back in 1975, way before I got.
It's the same cast of characters.
And they're very excited, and I was telling them about this program. This is the first time the board and the public is seeing this, so please, we appreciate your efforts on behalf of the district in cleaning up the front of the school, so by all means, please proceed.
We're done. Okay. Well, here's
Maybe
the...
pass out.
Here's
Pass it
the,
around, show you. Conceptual drawings.
If anybody has any questions,
Can you just give us an overview of where you are with the plans, what your timeline, what you're thinking about as we pass this around?
once we get the okay, we're going to have another committee meeting. We're going to talk about fundraising. Construction-wise, we're talking about late spring, summer, and hopefully be done by September of 2011. And that's about it. There's a lot of features on there. Go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to add, for those that maybe are not aware, as compared to some of your board members, the work doesn't really impact any construction on the school building itself. It's primarily work to clean up and beautify the front of our high school, which also is pretty much the center of town. And it was a project that we believe will improve both sides, both the Board of Education side and the township itself. And it's with that idea that this schematic and this plan drawing out that you're passing around now, just to give you an idea of what we hope it would look like when it's finished.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll,
Yes.
Is there any projected cost, roughly? I mean, not that it's coming out of your pocket, I'm just curious.
Roughly, we're looking at about 120,000.
Really?
And it is coming out of Sal's pocket.
Well, that's okay, that's fine, okay.
Try to, that's my goal.
We will not, just like in the courtyard, if we're short on funding, we're going to proceed with the project and fund it, but we're not going to leave the school undone.
I understand.
Well, it's a big concern when I was on the board that somebody's going to come in, start something and not finish it, but I'll personally guarantee that.
I look at the group, I'm not worried about that. The courtyard is outstanding.
Well, was all of Nutley that contributed to it, so.
I'll just point out, I'll just show this to the public and point it out.
Sure.
That's what I was in
Yeah.
the comments.
Jim Kutch is on our committee, and we'll be taking every design decision through him to the board. If anybody has any objections or suggestions, we're open. It's conceptual right now, but once we get into the springtime and we're funding, we're going to move along.
Well, the conceptual drawings look fantastic, and we certainly appreciate your efforts, as well as somebody who's not here tonight. You want to talk about the other people on your committee that have so much to do with this?
Fantastic character.
I mean, Brian Corbanek is just,
Brian
I want to
Corbanek.
mention him specifically because, like you guys, he's a spectacular, incredible individual who's,
Some people might not know about Brian, but he contributed all the time in the Park Oval.
he's amazing.
He laid down every paver that was donated by Viola Brothers, but it was Brian who did all the work there. And I asked him about doing this job, and he said, of course. So I said, well, you know, it's a paying job. He says, well, all the better. That's what kind of guy Brian Corbanek is. So he's our lead contractor.
Jerry, you want
He
to,
spent a lot of time on it already.
Jerry, you just want to show this?
If you look down from the sky, this is a plan view. Excuse my back, guys. This is a plan view. This is the existing doorway into the building right here. This is Franklin Avenue. So conceptually, the idea is to make the entrance to the building a bigger plaza area with brick pavers, similar to the courtyard, although we're not going to be selling the pavers. There'll be an insignia. We're not sure what it's going to say here, but right now it's Nutley Senior High School, with our logo. A similar logo into the secondary entrance over here. All new trees. Right now we're looking at taking down all the existing trees and replacing them with something that has a higher canopy, because you really can't see the building the way it's set up now. A big expense is we're proposing to install bollards along the perimeter at the curb line. Those little black, we have a detail. Those little black poles, those architectural treatments with a chain, connecting them. The idea is to keep everybody off the grass and keep them away from the building. These are quite expensive, but they're going to look beautiful, and the idea would be they would match the black street lights that the municipality is putting in. Let me see what else we got. We haven't done a lighting scheme yet, but certainly there's going to be both accent and security lighting. We'll have, we're going to dovetail security cameras in with this. So generally, it's to open up the front of the building. One of the main features I forgot to mention, we're looking at a water feature right up against the building when you walk straight in. Something for the high school kids to put ivory soap in. And
Seniors.
yeah.
It's not a fountain, it'll just be like a trickle-down wall into a collecting basin and be recycled around.
So
But it would look nice, maybe some backlighting in there.
if you've seen the Nutley, if you've seen the high school courtyard, it's a beautiful, very tranquil place. Clearly, this is a public area, and we acknowledge that, but the idea is to make it as beautiful as the courtyard. We're going to have the students get some skin in the game. Another feature here is a new electronic sign that Mr. Catcherbrome can control from his office. He can put the messages on from his office, and we're thinking of having the students raise the money for that. It's an expensive project. We're over $100,000, and we're looking to fund it all privately. If you see Mr. Oliver walking down the street, run to the other side, because if he bumps into you, it's going to cost you $5,000. But we appreciate the time. We know it's late. We don't want to take any more, and we're eager to get started, and hopefully it works out. And next year, this time, hopefully we'll be enjoying the beautiful front of the high school. Thanks, guys.
Any other questions?
Appreciate it. Just like to make sure. One thing, can we, and you guys are the experts, it'll be up to you the timing of this, can we eventually get those schematics on our website to get the people familiar with what's going on?
Yeah, after they have the final drawings and we approved it. And they
That's part of the fundraising process.
That's great, thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks, guys. Anyone else wish to be heard on any school-related items?
Mr.
President, would it be appropriate to ask questions now about the TriTech College Division decision? Thank you, Mr. President. Alan Thomas, 108 McKinley Street. Mr. President, I'm wondering whether the council or the board discussed whether to appeal the appellate division decisions to the New Jersey Supreme Court.
I think he already addressed that. He said that any discussion about how we move forward is confidential at this point, and we haven't really decided on anything. Does that answer your question?
If you haven't decided, then that's what I want to know, whether you've decided.
We've been given all our options.
Thank you, Mr. President. And in terms of procedure, Mr. President, if the board decides not to appeal and decides to go to a plenary hearing, would that actually be a plenary hearing within the court, or would you be going back to arbitration to conduct the rescission, discovery, and so on?
I think that would be in court.
And that's how I read the decision too, but I can imagine TriTech might have a view of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mike Russo, W Street. Two quick questions on back-to-school issues. Number one, has the district ever looked into the possibility of putting a list of the supplies online, or requesting the teachers to do it maybe earlier, either at the end of the previous school year, or just to give us, it just puts a lot of pressure on the parents, especially because some of the teachers, not all, a few of them, did require some of these supplies to be in by Friday, which I thought was unrealistic. In this day and age, there's no reason that we can't get a little bit of advance notice.
I imagine it's easily done.
Okay.
And I think there was to a certain extent, it was done on the website at the end of the school year. Now, we're going to make sure that it happens across the board.
In August,
I'm sorry, August, they put it up?
we were supposed to put a school-wide list up, it wasn't teacher-specific.
No, but we need to get
The
it.
point is taken. It's,
Okay.
by the way, as you know, I have more children than you. And I've lived the experience 5 times, and it's not a comfortable experience. And you're 100% correct. It's the same thing every year. You come to school on Tuesday or Wednesday, by the end of the week, you see 1,000 people at Staples and, over Clifton Commons trying to get the stuff that's required for, 5-star notebooks or whatever it may be. But
Along those lines also, so you could appreciate this one too. To fill out those emergency cards, each individually, last year it was 4, this year was only 3. Why can't we do that online? Why am I writing the same information from last year on these little cardboard note cards? That should be online.
I believe that's come up in the past regarding the extended date. I think we do have to have a hard copy, but I will check on that. I think we need the parent's signature on those cards, but we'll find out.
Okay.
And I'll have the answer for you.
anyone else who wish to be heard?
Territory 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for Nutley Advocacy Network. I just 2 questions. In regards to the online services, is it possible for teachers to start placing homework assignments online? I know that was something that was brought up when you guys were talking about the website. I was wondering if you made any considerations about that.
And that's still being discussed.
Okay, because that's something that I think would put everybody on the same page.
I know some do.
Yes,
There's
some
no
do.
question, by the way, and I've said this before at meetings when I was sitting over there and sitting over there, there's no question that we will be online.
Okay.
So,
I think
I don't have the
Mr.
time
Baumeister
to-
could probably add to
We are actually
where we are
doing
at.
that with a pilot group right now,
Right.
so.
Thank you.
And the intent is to expand it in November? In November, and then we have to make a decision as a board and also with the union as to whether we can impose it upon the teachers or not. Because the question is it an issue of working conditions, contractual, or is it something we can dictate? And so we have to talk to the union on that also.
Okay. I have one more question,
Sure.
Mr. President. When I was reading my agenda for tonight, it didn't say anything about your meeting that you were going to have for almost 2 hours. So I was wondering if at all possible, if you could somehow put it on the agenda that you're going to meet with someone, not to say that you shouldn't be meeting with your attorney, of course, we have to consult with
I
him.
appreciate that. This is the first time where we really went long, and I apologize for that. It's my fault.
Is there any way that if
Well, in my opinion.
Okay. All right.
But guess what, right now?
Right.
No, I'm kidding, go ahead. I respect that and appreciate it, and I apologize.
Can we just do that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dave Scheidel. I'm calling to talk about the concerns at Radcliffe, the concerns of the students. I'm sure you're all aware that you got the letter from Paul.
Yeah, I don't know, you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting?
He was not.
All right, I addressed all of that at the beginning of the meeting. I did a construction report, or not to cut you off, but I did a construction report, so I'll review for you what I stated earlier in the meeting when we opened up at 6:30. Because this morning I went by, before I even saw that letter, I went by Radcliffe School, I went by Yannicott School, I went by the middle school and the high school. And what I said earlier was that I've spent a lot of time, chairing the construction and facilities committee before I became president, and now I have both roles as chairperson of that committee and as president. And I've spent a tremendous amount of time involved in these schools for the last 7 years since we've been doing construction. And when the contractors do a great job, I stand here and sit here and laud them that they're doing a good job. I was not happy at all with what I saw this morning at either one of those facilities. I wasn't happy with what I saw at Radcliffe School, and I'm saying it for the second time tonight publicly. I asked that, did we remove that dumpster?
No, it should be out here, not tonight, tomorrow morning.
All right, so the dumpster's gonna go. I wasn't happy about the dumpster. I wasn't happy about the contractors being outside without that area fenced off with equipment out there. I wasn't happy that I heard they were going into the buildings, even though the principal assured me that in order to get into the building, that they had to come in the front door and come to his office first. I wasn't happy about it because that's not the way the project should flow. There should be a porta-john outside, and if they need a bathroom, they go in the porta-john outside, not come into the building and commingle with our students and staff. So I have another meeting first thing tomorrow morning at that facility with the construction manager, and we're talking about cabinetry, we're talking about personnel, we're talking about contractors, we're talking about dumpsters, we're talking about where they have access to, and that ship, I can tell you, will be tightened up before school opens tomorrow.
Okay, can I add some suggestions and questions?
Absolutely.
One of my questions, I'm in the business as well, and so I kind of understand what goes on with these contracts, and I understand that, and I'm sure their contract reads the same way, is that once school starts, they're out of school, they work at night. I know variables happen, they hold you to the fire and all that, so we let them work, we let them work in the boiler room, we let them work here, we let them work there. If that's gonna have to be the case, one of the things they did at Bloomfield High School was you had to drop your driver's license off, and you got an ID card. It was a very simple process, and non-costing to the Board of Education, and then we know who's in the school all the time. If they want their license, they gotta come back and sign out. So,
Well, they're not going to be in the buildings, so that's not even going to be a requirement. They will not be in the buildings, inside our buildings, other than that area in the boiler room at Radcliffe that's locked up, that hallway door is locked, and the only entrance, egress in and out is out of that boiler room door. That's it.
it's easy to say sitting there, but it's a difficult thing.
Oh, it's not a difficult thing. Trust me when I tell you. I'm involved in the same business you're in, and it's not difficult. They will be controlled, and I'm sitting here telling you it's not difficult, and it will be controlled, and it won't be a topic of discussion. They will not be inside our building during school hours, period. Period. It's not up for discussion. They're not allowed. And everybody's been put on notice.
And so tomorrow morning too, then there won't be anything outside anymore as well.
I don't know. I just
Not the dumpster workers. No more workers in the parking lot.
As long as that area is fenced off, as long as that equipment that's outside is fenced off, so the children can't get at it and it's not a hazard, then I don't have a problem with it. But it's got to be cordoned off. You can't have access 6 to 10 feet from the door where kids are going in and out of school with equipment.
Plus it becomes a fire hazard. I mean, if there's a fire,
It's
I
just-
mean, that,
It's safety and fire, absolutely.
and how will it be addressed to the parents once, you know, is there gonna be a letter to go out to the parents assuring that that's what's gonna be done? I mean, I know what's being said right now, but there's only a handful of us here that obviously, that are concerned and wanted to find out what's going on, but at the same time, I don't know how I'm trying to say it, but things change. I know what you're saying, okay, I don't know how it was left off with the contractors today, but tomorrow morning, what's to say that at 8 o'clock when I'm dropping my kid off, that there's not gonna be a circular saw sitting on the ground?
Because you're gonna see me there at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, there won't be. Not unless,
That's a great
not unless
answer.
the area's fenced off.
Well, that's a great answer, that's what,
Okay.
you know, and that's what I'm concerned with, and, Paul, I don't know if I'm missing anything. but-
If I may add,
Yes.
if I may add, the conference call, Mr. Riley, myself, the business administrator, Mr. Nicoletti, supervisor of building grounds, and the the construction manager, as well as his supervisor represents the company. It was very clear to them how unhappy we were with the variety of things that were remaining in Radcliffe School. And particularly the fact that that building was supposed to have 6 or 8 carpenters working on Saturday, and 2 or 3 showed up and they didn't stay very long. And we also, answering the principal's request, we brought custodians in over the weekend to make sure that building was re-cleaned, the floors buffed, and everything was made right. We will address this.
And I appreciate that, and I'm also not here to attack, I just.
It's all fair points, fair
One,
questions.
not that the answer is gonna help at all, but how does it get to that point? My first day of school over there, you know, the kids are excited, and, you know, the parking lot, and I'm sure you've heard it already, was a mess. Not the parking area, the fenced-in area, there was debris everywhere, very dangerous. I would assume the kids didn't even have recess, I'm not there during the day, so I'm not sure. In fact, I asked the question, and I was told if there, you know, they told us there's someone that can do it better, but I don't know. That was my answer.
Yeah, who told you that?
Mr. Rogers, I asked him, and it was just, I don't even know what that answer meant.
Well,
Time out.
I
never met you before, sir.
Yeah, I came up to the first day of school and I asked about debris,
And my
From what I
answer was
found
I
out-
would get in touch with somebody, you know, I called the superintendent immediately. I never recall.
that's not the response I got, but that's fine. Again, what I'm trying to say is that from what I heard, they were told to clean it up, and it wasn't cleaned up.
Well, as you said, you're in the building trades, and we've talked about it in the past. How does it get to this point? We rely on them to do the right thing for us. It was crunch time in almost every one of our buildings, Labor Day weekend, many people sitting at this table around and around the buildings, making sure we have assurances to the point where we were so serious that we discussed with Mr. Cosmo, our construction attorney, withholding payment. That's how dissatisfied we were. And you know, when somebody doesn't get paid, you have your complete attention.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've made it very clear, Mr. Riley brings his lifetime of experience in construction, and our construction attorney, everybody that I mentioned previously, is taking this as a very, very serious concern. And we want to make sure not only that we see progress, that we get this building complete, we get those shelving units put in, they're off-site, that we're finished and off-site.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the same point, I'm Paula Dobris. I'm the author of the infamous letter at this point. Mr. Carney and I spoke at approximately 11:30 this morning, and he assured me, he went down all my bullet points, and he assured me that there were absolutely no contractors allowed in the building. Rest assured, Mrs. Dobris, nobody's in the building. But come in, can you be here in 10 minutes for the tour? And he graciously took time out of his schedule, and I thanked him profusely for it, to walk me through some areas of the school that I was concerned about, primarily my children's classrooms, the stage. We walked, we toured, we saw, I was appalled. None of that compared to what the two of us witnessed after a few moments before he had made all these assurances. As we're standing behind the stage doors, I have 2 small children in that building. We're standing by the stage doors. Not only do we see one contractor come, walk down the hallway, completely unescorted, down the hallway, where we see at the end a few little girls playing around, going to the restrooms. no adult to be seen for the next 10 minutes. 30 seconds later, a second man exits through the boiler room door, walks down the hallway, again goes into the teacher's room, uses the restroom, no adult to be seen. Mr. Carney, I love him, I think he's a wonderful principal, said to me, in his words, that there was a safety patrol at the end of the hall. And I said to him, you mean to tell me that a 6th grader is patrolling the hallways and keeping them safe? That's not okay by me, and it shouldn't
It's
be
not
okay
okay
by
by me
any
either,
teacher.
that's why I
And it
had the
shouldn't
meetings
be,
today.
today was the 4th day of school.
Well,
It's
today was
been
the
going
first
on
day I
for-
found out, I
I
apologize
thank
for that,
God.
and that's over.
Nothing happened. But not only am I concerned over the men that are undocumented, unfingerprinted, Mr. Carney didn't know their names, but the boiler room doors are open access into the building. Anyone off the street can come in, and God forbid a million times a tragedy occurs. I don't want our school, which made the headlines on the Essex section, I'm sure you all saw it, Children in Harm's Way, the headline. I don't want Radcliffe School or any of the schools in Nutley to be highlighted for that. Can we make an effort to highlight our town and our school system with Nutley takes a proactive approach? Nutley enforces safety teams that sweep through the schools periodically, composed of board members, administrators, possibly police, law enforcement, fire officials, parents. Everyone sees safety through a different lens. Can we possibly consider doing something like that, a sweep of all schools? We all simply,
Isn't that why I was at the school this morning?
right, but can we have something, can we consider having a committee put together? I don't know the logistics of it, but shouldn't it be protocol? Shouldn't it be done?
I mean, we're supposed to have those doors locked.
Supposed to, and Mr. Carney assured me a few moments before we went, he told me himself, I have never seen that man at a loss for words. He said to me, in his words, Mrs. Dobris, I have nothing to say. I don't know how to respond to this. We watched it, not once,
I
twice,
understand.
within
Mrs. Douglas,
2
I understand,
minutes,
I get it.
in the middle of
We
lunch.
hear you loud and clear.
Can we do something about it,
That's
is
all.
my question.
I just explained to you, it will not happen tomorrow. Those doors will
I've
be
been
locked.
given
They will not be
verbal
in the building.
assurances.
I'm sorry.
I was given a verbal assurance today.
Well, I think the superintendent just told you that we were on the phone all day with council, contractors, construction managers. That's proactive. That's what we're trying to do.
Right, yet nobody was
And
at
Mr.
those
Carney
calls.
came to see this issue.
So
Right, and I
all
wish
of
it
this
hadn't gotten
happened
to this point.
after your conversation with him.
And this isn't the first time construction is being done in the school system. This is the first time it's affecting my children, but it's been done, for you said, for the past 7 years, major projects. Has this not been a concern at other schools? Has it never happened?
Of course it hasn't.
And what's happened that's that's what's in place to keep it from happening next year at a different building or in the same
We
building?
have to be diligent. We have to make sure we're there every day, making sure it works.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have to let Ms., since you spoke already, I have to let Mrs. Flynn come on.
Victoria Flynn, 43 Sylvan Place. Today I came to ask some questions of Mr. Cosmo. Because I've asked some questions, just to give you some context, I've asked questions in the past to the board and I've been told certain, have received certain responses, and I just want to ask those questions to you. So here it goes. I've asked in the past, well, first let me couch it like this. What is the terms of your engagement on behalf of the board at this point? If you could define them. Is it just limited to defending the district as to a tri-tech matter, or is it more broadly defined?
No, it's always been more broadly defined as a construction attorney, meaning both in terms of review of contracts, review of bid specifications, and then construction-related either arbitration or litigation matters.
So let me ask you about the tri-tech matter. I understand tri-tech sued us first, then I remember you being retained. And in response, we filed a counterclaim. What is it? I am a lawyer, so you.
Yes, I know.
What kind of counterclaim is it? What are the counts?
I can't recall, all the counts, but it included affirmative defenses, which included things like unilateral mistake. And it included, as I recall, breach and invalidity of unenforceability of the contract.
So there's a general breach of contract claim against TriTech as,
Well,
when you go back before now?
Except that the subject matter is the settlement agreement. Okay.
So there hasn't been a claim as against TriTech as to the underlying, a breach type case?
Correct.
That they didn't perform properly in the context of their duties?
Right, because that would be subject to the arbitration provision.
Has there ever been, or have you filed any other claims against any other responsible parties related to the TriTech dispute?
I have not filed any other claims, no.
Has the board asked you to identify any other potential responsible parties that relate to the TriTech dispute?
I think in my certification with the answer and counterclaim, we notified the court as required that there may be other parties if the matter proceeds. Yes.
Have you identified who they are yet for the board?
Yeah, without looking at the answer and counterclaim, I don't believe so.
Okay, it's just like a general John Joe, or you might have potential claims?
I can't recall if we named any potential parties.
Would that fall within the scope of your representation to, on remand, to file suit against any other potential parties?
It's a matter that we've discussed, I've discussed with the board.
My general comment to the board is that I'm hopeful that we will expand, if we need to, Mr. Cosmo's retention to file suit against these potential responsible parties, because we are talking about actions that occurred in '06, and I would believe the statute of limitations is ticking away as we speak on some of these potential claims. So, Mr. Riley and the board, I've asked this question in the past. I've asked if we filed any claims to make sure that the board and the district is made whole for this debacle. And I'm hopeful that we will do so on remand.
I concur.
Okay. I just am unsure if Mr. Cosmo has been retained to do that.
They're all business or new business, but she'll address me and all that stuff. It's not
We're not a new
It's not a
business?
board issue. No, this is the public portion, the second reading. We'll get to the new
Oh, I'm
business.
sorry. I thought it was
Still
new business.
discussing
It's okay.
any board business.
All right.
It's kind of duplicitous, but.
I won't come in new business and say anything else. That helps.
You have to, you can't talk to them.
Should I bring up the Radcliffe thing or no? Should I
What
wait?
Radcliffe
But they were all just talking.
That would be duplicitous. I think we beat it to a dead horse.
I just wanted, I have a comment as far, I don't understand, and I ask again, and I plead again, to incorporate the public that might have, like the gentleman that just spoke. I've offered services, I know other people have offered services that have experience in construction management and whatnot. They volunteer their services to come and help you assess these potential issues, and I do not know why we're reluctant to do so.
Why are you assuming that we don't? Why are you assuming?
Because I've volunteered.
Why are you
and I've been
assuming
told-
that I haven't spoken to other people, or I'm not involved in that personally on a regular basis?
I've been told we can't use the public. I can't.
You never heard that from me.
Well, you didn't personally say that, but when I've
never
asked
said
you to
that.
attend
As
a
a matter
construction,
of fact, I have
I
reached
think-
out to many people that are involved in construction. I always do.
have you with the
By the way,
Radcliffe?
my son works for the largest construction company in the world. I
Which
talk to
is-
him every day.
which is what?
Turner Construction in New York City. I know all about construction.
And did
believe me.
he have, because I've offered and I asked to come to construction
This is
management
why-
meetings,
this
and
is
told no.
why I visit the schools. I have a shore house. Did you know that? Do you know that this summer is the first summer I have not been to my shore house once? Do you know why?
You were busy, and this is
Where was
because
I busy?
here,
In
and
the
that's,
schools, every single day, all summer.
and that's okay.
Because we care, because we want to make sure that the schools
I
are
am
safe.
not-
We want to make sure we open on time. We want to make sure there's not debris. We want to make sure all these things.
But then, there was a comment said that, well, we were gonna hold back the construction management's fee. Oh, where's the construction manager? If you have people walking through, they
Construction
shouldn't
man is
be
gonna
paid.
be at that school with me first thing tomorrow morning.
They should have been there on Wednesday, and the other issue
You're
I
there
have,
every day.
Mr. Riley, the
You
other
said
issue I
it.
have,
Let me finish. You said he should have been there. I'm trying to answer your question. There's construction going on right now in 7 schools. He's at a different school every day.
Right.
He's on the job every day.
okay. The other issue I've always had, Mr. Riley, you understand, is with communication to the parents when there's construction going on at these schools. And I was here 2 years ago, and my comments sounded a lot like these other comments, and I just hope we continue to learn from them.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Francesca Roselli. I'm at 18 Tennis Place. I first wrote a letter to the board then about a year and a half ago, and then I met with Mr. Zara about a year ago, and then wrote a letter to all of you about 2 months ago maybe, and met with Mr. Zara about a month ago. One board member has actively gotten back to me, but I've neglected to hear from anyone else, and I'm thinking this may be the only forum for that. I don't like to speak publicly, so I try to avoid this, but I feel like this is my last resort. I'm thinking that maybe tonight it may be coming up in old or new business, but I'm hoping that you will consider changing your policy for kindergarten admission. I've hit dead ends in many ways trying to have my daughter admitted early to kindergarten. I think I have fair ground for having her admitted early. I know there's pros and cons to admitting children early, but I think parents should have more of a say in being able to advocate for their children to be admitted early in certain circumstances. And I'm hoping that you will take the time to consider what I've written to you and maybe try to respond to me in some way, because I feel like all my responses are falling mostly on deaf ears at this point, and it's become a bit frustrating. So I'm not sure how you can respond to me at this point. I'm hoping.
Here's how we respond to you. We're all aware of it. We've all discussed it. It's not really a board issue per se, other than it falls under policy. So we asked the superintendent to meet with you, which I did, I believe.
Yes, we did meet.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You want to give us details?
Yes, we met, and I listened to Mrs. Roselli advocate for her child, and there are compelling reasons, pro and con, on early kindergarten. And when we met, it was right before the opening of school. And
That was
certainly-
the second time we met, though.
Yes.
The first time we met was a year ago.
Absolutely.
So that I avoided coming right before school started. But I had no resolution then, and I have no
I
resolution.
believe you did have a resolution letter from Mrs. Francioso.
That was in April.
That was an option for you to go to a full-day kindergarten on your own and then enter first grade. Am I correct?
Correct. That was for me to pay privately to go to a full-day kindergarten on my own, on top of my taxes that I pay, and then for her to be admitted come September to first grade. So that you are, I very much appreciate it. I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate that, because it's a step.
Right.
However, you are expecting me to pay for something that I feel like I should be given at this point, because I think Delilah merits that, and you are willing to break a policy for first grade that is identical to a policy for kindergarten. And then your reasoning for pros and cons falls out the window, because you're essentially breaking your policy anyway.
So we're being criticized for trying to help you.
No. Essentially, you're being criticized for expecting me to pay
No,
for it.
We're not, and again, I've gone through this years ago, not in this seat, but certainly I know child study team tested children. I explained to you, Mr. Roselli.
Yes,
and
my son was
very,
tested
and very few people, when the result of the testing was that they didn't feel the child was ready, accepted that.
I understand that.
And some years ago, the Nutley Board of Education, many years ago, probably 15, maybe 18 years ago, just ended the policy of bringing children in early.
No, because my son was tested and came in early, and my son is only in 5th grade.
Okay, well then I thought it was a little bit earlier. than
No,
that, but-
and I'm a child study, I'm an occupational therapist, and I understand all those things. And if you told me that my child was not ready, I would not say otherwise. I would respect that. But you don't give her that chance. You haven't given her that chance, and that's where I find fault. And as a parent of a child who understands her child, and you've never met my child,
No, certainly not.
I feel like I deserve more of a say in her being able to come. And I expect at least you to look at her, you to
give me an answer at this point.
I certainly will, and my apologies, I spoke to Mr. Riley, we were going to talk, and I'm sure we still will talk about this at the end of the evening, but our time in closed executive was consumed with the attorney. So certainly you will hear back from me tomorrow, no later than, I would say, Wednesday, no later.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
You Henning, 31 Terrace Ave. Yes. Regarding that issue, do we have something as a written policy currently?
Yes.
And that's what it is, right? Unless we change the written policy.
That's precisely what it is. We do well. Yes, but again, that policy was changed. I thought it was longer than that, but not so long ago.
I guess my issue, again, so it comes right back, is if we have a written policy, we can't get in trouble if we stick to a written policy. Where we get in trouble is when we change and make exceptions to written policies. And this is another issue of making exceptions to written policies that causes issues, because now it's going to be, we're going to go on a case-by-case basis for different things. It doesn't make any sense. Either we're going to have it or we're not going to have it, but it should be a written policy. And, you know, if we're going to have, you know, it's going to be, yes, we can have some early admission, that's great, let's have it, that be our written policy, and let's stay with the written policy.
It would have to be for everybody.
Correct, it would have to be, that's what the policy is. And this goes back to my other issue, which I have not heard back from, regarding policy, that I was told is going into litigation, which is like 3 months ago now, and I still haven't heard anything regarding that policy.
What policy?
I believe we're talking, it wasn't a policy, I believe it was a school procedure. School procedure. Okay. And I thought that you had some contact with Mr. Catron.
I did, and then that contact was severed because he said it was in litigation and could not be addressed anymore until that everything was resolved.
I will talk to him and find out. I will call tomorrow.
This is where we get into those issues. And again, the other big issue that I'm hearing from everybody is communications. And it's been an issue forever, and it's still an issue, communications. People call, they want to call back, people write, they want an answer. If somebody takes the time to actually write a letter, they would like a response, either in writing, more than likely, or at least a phone call to follow up. And this is where you get the public very much in arms because they feel like they're not being responded to.
Well, let me say this. As is the case in Nutley, people choose to communicate directly with board members, and that's their right. However, that circumvents myself or the principal or the athletic director or the drama coach or any number of people, and then it has a very delayed way of getting to where it's supposed to be. And again, board members, they're public servants, they do a wonderful job, they sacrifice an awful lot of their time, but there is nobody that does not get a call back from me or an email back or whatever, even if I don't know. I'm dealing with a situation right now with music boosters. My email back was, I don't have an answer yet, but I'm working on it. So when I get the information or board members bring it to me, certainly, I think we do communicate. And going back to Radcliffe School, this is evolving. We were immersed in construction all summer long, and we've been immersed in it for several years. And Mr. Riley and I joke that Labor Day means I'll see you in the schools. It's been very difficult, and our responsibility is to make sure that these schools are open and they're clean and they're safe. Are they 100%? Absolutely not. But they're open. We believe they're clean up to a point and they're safe up to a point. We don't think there's any grave danger. The construction manager has walked through Tuesday night, the night before the students came in. I was at Yannicol with the Carl Tennell and Mr. Nicoletti till about 10:30 at night, making sure those fire alarms were working before we opened school the next morning. I believe we do communicate. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the world has changed in the last few years, and if I could just say, between text messages, cell phones, emails, it happens so quickly. There's only, say, one of me or one principal or one business administrator, and everything's coming in. In the past, quite frankly, somebody called me, an appointment came to see me. Now, the communications are coming in 7 different ways,
Right.
and we really try to stay on top of it.
And I think that's where we get, where, in order to help with some of that inundation, is you get a little bit more proactive with it and get that information out to the public, what's going on with Radcliffe, get it up on the website, have the principals send out a letter or a notice, backpack it to the kids. This is what we did, this is how we corrected it, whatever. Again, if you're more proactive, it's going to make it where you don't get those 15 or 20 phone calls coming in. You just send out a letter, and now you don't have 15 or 20 phone calls that take up an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of your time saying the same thing over and over and over again to 20 different parents. This way it's in a letter.
And there are examples of that. When public safety gives us a message that there is a suspicious person or something that everybody should know, we broadcast that on our email immediately. Many times, something is particular to a grade or a school or a level, and we try to get that out. But we can always do that. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying an awful lot is coming in because of the world we live in.
No, I understand. We're in the same world. It's, I understand. I'm just trying to say that, you know, you're hearing, I'm listening to what's going on, and it's all communication.
So listen all night, we get it.
And the last thing on the tri-tech issue, one of the issues that the judge said was the contract, or Judge Kennedy, this is, said the contract, original contract with tri-tech should never have happened because it never went out to bid, blah, 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 that kind of thing. That sounded like an attorney issue, not a tri-tech issue. Is there any conversation regarding board counsel and litigation?
We're not going to discuss that. That's confidential information. That's legal. We're not going to talk about it.
Thank you.
One more, because we're way over the time limit, so I'll wait. Thank you.
Alan Thomas, 108 McKinley Street. I'm sorry, I'm going to rephrase Mr. Henning's question, because in response to Ms. Flynn's question, Construction Council told us what the scope of his representation was. And thus, I'm going to ask a similar question. Is Construction Council charged with pursuing or evaluating claims against potential culpable parties with regard to the state sanctions we got for, that we have to refund money for, and those issues?
We've discussed every legal issue imaginary with all the personnel and contractors and subcontractors and lawyers and architects and designers and engineers that you could imagine. Yes, we've exhausted and exercised.
And that is
all
within
discussion.
within Colin Foley's
Within
scope
his
of representation?
Foley's scope is anything to do with construction, and all those items have to do with construction.
Okay, because that's, okay, I hear it from you, Mr. Riley, but that's not what Mr. Cosmo
He
said.
said he hasn't moved forward with anything. He said we've discussed it. He clearly answered the question. He said we've discussed it, and we have, and that's what I just said to you. We've discussed, and he has given us all of our legal
But
options.
you limited
Yes.
what he said to Tritech, and I'm going beyond Tritech.
So am I.
Okay, and that's why I'm clarifying, Mr. Riley, that's all.
So can you be more specific? If I haven't answered it, be specific, and I'll answer your specific question if I can.
You have, I'm just noting that there's a difference between what you
Right,
said
you're looking
and what
at me,
Mr. Cosmo
I feel like I
said.
didn't,
Okay, and so now I have what you said and what Mr. Cosmo said. So I'm still going to be confused
You're
by
just looking
that.
at me like I haven't answered the question, but you say I have, so I take it.
I mean, do you recognize that there was a difference between what
I
you
do
said and
not.
what Mr. Cosmo
I do
said?
not. I think you said the same thing, but, you know, we can agree to disagree.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Thank you. Let's go into new business now. So, any new business? Old business first? Let's do new business first. We did new business last night. Any new business?
Yes, Mr. Riley.
Yes.
I will pass out to you some applications for the Soccer Boosters Club. I was given to give to the board members in case you're interested in taking out a page in the Soccer Boosters magazine. I appreciate it.
Anything else you have? Anyone else have new business? No. Yes, Mr. Rogers.
You want me to address stop, drop and go now, or after this presentation that was supposed to be?
Well, no, we have we shared a copy of this with the traffic safety supervisor, traffic safety officer? Does he have a copy of this?
Not yet. I would want that to remain with the school board, and I'll explain why. At least at this particular time. Well, it'll be posted on the web, but I want to.
Mr. Rogers, can I ask a question? What are we discussing tonight as far as the stop?
I don't know, it's an open discussion, he's able to discuss whatever he wants at this point in the meeting. It's new business. And he has a concern over something we discussed in the public portion of the meeting a couple of weeks ago. And he has every right to continue that discussion.
I don't think we ever really discussed it, did we?
We sure did. We
were given a map, and we were given a map, that was it.
We were given a map, and at that point, if you'll allow me, we said, you know, here's what our proposal is. Here's the recommendation from the police department, from the public safety department, and if anybody has any issues or concerns, please let us know. Now, I would have really appreciated something before 6:30 tonight if someone had a concern, because we've had, what was the date of the last meeting?
The special meeting on the 31st.
So on the 31st, we handed that out, and I'm handed this tonight at 6:30, so, you know, I'm not really sure why it was handed at 6:30. If there were safety concerns and issues, it would have been nice to call me personally and ask me, or, I mean, if this is the first time that the person who's responsible and is responsible for the safety of this proposed program, and the fact that he's seeing this for the first time, it kind of bothers me too, because as I said, to start this meeting at 6:30, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. So, but by all means, Mr. Rogers, please proceed.
Likewise, what bothers me is that the presentation from the individual public safety department was not put on the agenda. I don't know when this occurred, when this, let me finish, please.
No, you made a statement.
When was it scheduled for a member of the public safety department to come here tonight? When was this scheduled?
What do you mean, when was it scheduled?
We were given, as Mr. Kaczynski said, a graph. We were given a little bit of a discussion about this stop, drop, and go that was going to be created at Radcliffe School. I believed that since it was going to be a public discussion, that we were waiting until the next board meeting, which is tonight, and that the board would discuss this, and later on we would get input from a multitude of people.
Well, this is a joint services agreement with the municipality. And if I didn't generate that stop, drop, and go design, but the people that are involved in that are here now, and I think it's fair that they're able to answer your concerns.
Obviously we did. Here's the problem. I am not going to put a police officer who's my subordinate in a very awkward position in public and address this.
Well, I think you already have, Mr. Rogers.
No, I have
I think the fact that you handed all of us this letter.
You and my colleagues have this letter. There are
just got it at 6:30, Mr. Rogers.
You got it at 6:30 because I didn't have time during the week to get to. Okay?
So when you were thinking of typing this up, you couldn't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Ken, I have some safety concerns."
Mr. Riley, look.
And you didn't even call the person, the safety officer for the town of Nutley, didn't even know you had safety concerns. And you're challenging me.
Mr. Riley.
I'm in stunned disbelief.
Well,
Stunned
folks,
disbelief.
take it for what it's worth.
Please proceed.
I'll let my character and I will let what I do and how I do it stand for itself. I'll say exactly what I have to say, not related to this. Read it tomorrow on my website. I don't believe that things should be ramrodded down anybody's throat, especially the parents at Radcliffe School, since we're talking about Radcliffe School. You want to have your presentation, you want to do what you did behind closed doors, do it. I'll be back when the presentation's over. To put a police officer.
I don't think anyone is granting anybody suggest, Mr. Rogers, by the way, you're way overboard here. For you to suggest that this, you're angry, what about me? I'm not angry?
I will
I'm
be
not
next
angry to
door,
be
and I will,
blindsided with this
and
at
I will
6:30
request
at night.
that when
Mr.
you
Rogers,
proceed with the meeting, I'll
you
be
should
there.
apologize to this entire
I
body.
apologize to the public for
Running anything down any.
This is outrageous. This is what we were supposed to stop. This
No,
is the
this
kind
is
of
what
thing-
we were supposed to
A
stop.
letter, an open letter?
No, open a phone call. Pick up the phone and call somebody if you have a safety concern.
Disgraceful. Call me when you're ready.
Anyone else for new business?
Are we going to continue discussion or we go?
No, as far as I'm concerned, construct.
Okay.
Anyone for old business?
Old business.
Yes.
There was a question raised about statute of limitations.
And that was,
With respect to construction stuff.
that was a good point. We didn't bring it up in closed session, and we should have.
And so I, you know, where are those, what are the statute of limitations that we've got to worry about, the timing of it? So that's my question.
And our attorney probably left too soon.
Well, he wouldn't answer that.
Okay,
You got to return.
that was a good point.
But it's something that maybe we can have.
I would hope that he's a competent attorney and he would know this. True? I mean, do we have to like check with him that, like, the statute of limitations? I would hope not. That would be very disappointing.
Well, no, but I'm thinking in terms of future litigation as to what other parties are brought into.
Well, I would hope he
to
would
bear.
have that insight too.
What is
right?
the time, I just want to know, what is the time frame that we have, where are the statute of limitations that we're going to bump up against? Is it 6 years from, and where's the starting point of that 6-year period? Just a little roadmap as to what we have to do when, by when.
Well, I understand your concern, but I certainly hope
I'm
he
sure
has
he
that
has.
all in mind too.
I'm sure he can answer
Otherwise,
that, but I
not
would
gonna
like
work
to.
out.
Let's be sure we get an answer.
And I think we have to be mindful, is it when the contract signed, when the issue occurred, was it the end of the construction? Certainly, we don't know these things.
He has to be mindful.
But we should be informed. as to
Okay,
those
all
things.
right, yes.
Why don't we just put that in the back of what we talked about earlier?
I have the list.
Anyone else for old business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Meeting is adjourned.